The first time Ethan Cole noticed something was wrong with his new assistant, Claire Matthews, it wasn't because she said anything or complained. It was because she nearly collapsed while stacking files in the office storeroom. Her fingertips trembled. Her face had gone pale, and for a moment she leaned against the metal shelf as if the entire world had suddenly become too heavy to carry. Ethan, a 36-year-old single father juggling work and raising his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, had seen exhaustion before he lived in it every day, but this was different. This was the kind of weakness that looked carved into someone's bones, the kind that came from battles no one else could see. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us to be gentle with others, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. At first, Ethan didn't know what to make of Claire. When she joined his small real estate marketing office in Seattle, she seemed like someone who carried herself with quiet dignity. She arrived early, stayed late, and was flawless with work. But behind that professionalism was a shadow, a stillness in her eyes, a heaviness in her smile, the faintest tremble in her hands whenever she thought no one was watching. She rarely ate lunch, always said she wasn't hungry, and took deep breaths as if steadying herself before every task. Ethan had hired her because he desperately needed help trying to be both mother and father to Lily after his wife passed 3 years earlier had left him stretched thin. Claire had seemed calm, composed, capable. But now he wasn't sure capable was the right word. She looked fragile, and if she were holding herself together with nothing more than willpower. One rainy Tuesday morning, Ethan noticed her walking slowly, almost gingerly, from her car toward the office. Her shoulders curved inward. She held her bag tightly against her chest, as if bracing herself from something only she could feel. When she reached her desk, she sat down too quickly, wincing slightly. That silent flinch gnawed at him all morning. By midday, he found himself watching her from his office window, the concern settling deep in his chest. She was always freezing, always tired, always fading around the edges. It wasn't normal. And he hated himself for not asking sooner, for assuming that just because she always said she was fine, she actually was. That afternoon, after she almost dropped a stack of printed brochures, Ethan gently asked if she wanted to step outside for some fresh air. She resisted at first, insisting she was okay, but he insisted too. They went to the small rooftop terrace, a quiet corner with potted plants, a table, and a view of the city skyline smeared by gray rain clouds. When she sat down, he finally asked what he had been holding back for weeks, why she looked so weak, so worn down, so breakable. For a long moment she said nothing. Her eyes stayed fixed on the raindrops sliding across the terrace railing. Then, in a voice that barely rose above the wind, she told him the truth that would change everything. She told him she had been diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune illness 9 months earlier, one that attacked her energy, her muscles, her ability to live normally. She told him she'd lost her old job because she couldn't keep up with the physical demands. She told him she'd lost her apartment soon after, and she told him her savings had evaporated, piece by piece, until she had nothing left except a small rented room shared with another tenant on the far side of town. She apologized for looking weak. She apologized for the inconvenience she might be. She apologized as if her illness was somehow a personal failure. Ethan felt his heart crack open. Her story hit him like a wave, knocking the air from his lungs, because he knew loss, and he knew exhaustion, and he knew what it felt like to walk through life pretending you weren't falling apart. He knew what it meant to carry the weight of survival alone. But what stunned him the most wasn't her illness. It was the way she had still shown up every day, still given everything she had, still tried to be enough when the world had given her so little in return. After that day, Ethan couldn't look at Claire the same way, not in pity but in respect. Her quiet strength moved him deeply. He found himself paying closer attention, noticing the way she massaged her wrists when the pain flared, the way fatigue tugged at her features by late afternoon, the way she forced a smile when she thought he needed one. He began offering her breaks, lighter tasks, flexible hours, but she pushed back gently, insisting she wanted to earn her place. And so he found a balance, helping her without making her feel small. Everything shifted the day she met Lily. It was a Thursday evening. Nearly everyone had left, and Ethan was struggling to finish a presentation when Lily burst through the office door, her backpack bouncing behind her. Her babysitter had cancelled unexpectedly, and the only choice Ethan had was to bring her along. Lily, bright-eyed and endlessly curious, wandered around the office until she reached Claire's desk. Ethan watched nervously from his office, unsure how the interaction would go. But what he saw left him strangely stunned. Claire looked up, and for the first time since she joined the company, something in her face softened, not the tired, strained softness she usually carried, but a warm, gentle one. Lily shyly handed her a drawing she'd made during school, and Claire smiled, a real, full smile that lit her features like sunrise breaking through fog. She complimented the drawing, asked about school, and within minutes, Lily was giggling, and Claire was laughing, a sound Ethan didn't think she had in her. Something changed after that. Lily began visiting the office more often after school, and every time, she gravitated straight to Claire's desk. They colored together, shared stories, sang silly songs, and every time Ethan watched them, he saw how Claire's shoulders relaxed, how her eyes brightened, how her entire presence shifted from wounded to alive. It was as if Lily's innocent heart reminded her of something she had forgotten, how it felt to be seen without judgment, to be valued without needing to hide her weaknesses. As weeks turned into months, the three of them quietly built something that felt like family, even if no one dared to speak it aloud. Claire became more than an assistant, she became part of their world. She started joining them for dinner sometimes, always shyly, always insisting she didn't want to intrude. But Lily adored her, and Ethan, he found himself drawn to her in a way he didn't expect. He saw her courage, her humility, her persistence. He saw someone who had survived storms but still tried to bring light wherever she could. And somewhere along the way, his admiration turned into something deeper, something warmer, something he tried to hide. But life has a way of testing the fragile things we begin to care about. One evening, just after closing, Claire collapsed. One moment she was at her desk, reaching for her bag. The next she was on the floor, pale and shaking, her breath sharp and shallow. Panic surged through Ethan as he rushed to her side, calling her name again and again. Her pulse was weak. Her skin felt ice cold. He carried her to his car and drove to the hospital as fast as his shaking hands allowed. Doctors confirmed her illness had worsened, triggered by exhaustion, malnutrition, and stress. They admitted her overnight for stabilization, and Ethan stayed in the waiting room long after visiting hours ended. Unable to leave, Lily insisted on coming the next morning with a handmade card that read, "Feel better, Miss Claire. We need you." When Claire finally woke, she cried softly when she saw them both standing there. That moment was when Ethan made his decision. When Claire was discharged, he drove her to her small rented room, a cramped, dim place with peeling paint and a thin mattress laid on the floor. She tried to smile, tried to pretend it was fine, but Ethan couldn't bear it. Not after everything she had been through. Not after everything she meant to them now. He asked her to come stay with him and Lily until she recovered properly. She refused at first, shaking her head, insisting she didn't want to be a burden. But Ethan looked her straight in the eyes and told her she had never been a burden, not even for 1 second. He told her Lily needed her around. And he told her, quietly, that he needed her too. With trembling lips and eyes shining with tears, Claire finally agreed. Moving into their home wasn't easy for her. She had spent so long learning to survive alone that accepting kindness felt foreign, almost painful. But Ethan and Lily welcomed her gently, giving her space to heal, reminding her every day that she deserved softness too. Slowly, her strength returned. Slowly, her smiles came easier. Slowly, the fear in her eyes began to fade. Ethan found himself watching her more often, laughing with Lily in the kitchen, reading on the couch with a blanket tucked around her shoulders, standing in the garden watching the sunset with quiet awe. He realized then that he wasn't just grateful for her, he was falling in love with her. But he kept it to himself, afraid of burdening her with emotions she might not be ready for. Then one evening, as they washed dishes side by side, Claire quietly told him that she didn't understand why they cared so much. She didn't understand why he was helping her this way. She didn't understand why she mattered when she had lost so much of herself to her illness. Ethan gently wiped the soap from his hands, turned to her, and told her the truth. He told her she mattered because she had a heart that refused to give her even when her body struggled. He told her she mattered because she had brought laughter back into his home, light back into his days, hope back into his daughter's eyes. He told her she mattered because she made their little family feel whole again. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of being seen, maybe for the first time in a long time. And in a shaky voice, she whispered that she cared for him too, that she cared for Lily, that being with them felt like breathing again, and that she didn't want to lose that. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something inside him settle, like the world had gently aligned itself. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of the quiet battles people fight, please like, comment, and share. Your engagement truly keeps these emotional stories alive. Before we end, I have a special request. Please comment Hope Heal if you believe everyone deserves compassion and a second chance. And so, what began as concern for a fragile assistant grew into something deeper, a reminder that sometimes the people who look the weakest are the ones fighting the hardest battles. And sometimes, all they need is a place where love, patience, and kindness are given freely. In Ethan's home, Claire found strength. In Claire's presence, Ethan found healing. And in their hearts, a new story began, quiet, brave, and beautiful.